Nomads have an interesting habit. At the end of each day, after they've packed up and are ready to move to a new location, they leave behind one thing. It's not supplies, not equipment, but their trash. Do we really need another shirt? Do we need to upgrade our phone every year? Do we need to buy the latest gadget? For example, we bought a fancy espresso machine for our coffee shop. It's super automatic. It grinds the beans, tampers the grounds, pulls the shot, and even froths the milk automatically. Other days I find myself wanting to buy something new. But I keep reminding myself of the benefits of this approach. First, I've noticed that I'm spending less money on things that don't matter to me. I'm able to save more and invest in things that are important. Second, my mind is calmer. I don't constantly scroll through shopping sites or think about what I want to buy next. But by practicing intentional living and letting go of what doesn't add value to our lives, we can free ourselves from the burden of excess and focus on what truly matters. It's not perfect, but it's better than before. See, money is like a tool, right? It's made of paper or stored in digital ledgers. It's not inherently valuable. You have matches, but they're wet and useless in the rain. Suddenly a small fire becomes crucial for cooking food, boiling water, and keeping warm. In that moment, a lighter becomes invaluable. Money itself doesn't have inherent worth. It's how we assign meaning to it that makes it valuable. Or instead of saying, "I'll be happy when I earn more," we can ask, "What kind of work can I do that aligns with my values and brings me satisfaction?" It's not a bad thing to want to earn more money. But it's important to ensure that the pursuit of money doesn't consume our lives or lead to unethical actions. When we see money as a means to an end rather than an end in itself, we can strive for financial success without losing sight of our values and priorities. When we shift our mindset from chasing money to using it as a tool, we open ourselves up to a different way of thinking. We start to see opportunities to create value, improve systems, and enhance our lives within the framework of financial responsibility. You might offer anything you have left, like a bag of chips or a sweater, to get that lighter because you recognize its immediate value. It's the value we assign to it that makes it important. Their paintings become valuable, not because they're made of special materials, but because they evoke emotions and connect with viewers. Someone might visit a gallery, see a painting, and have their entire perspective on life shifted. They might start seeing beauty in everyday things or realize the importance of cherishing loved ones. The painting becomes valuable because of the impact it has on the viewer's life. Now, we can't eat stacks of bills or build a house with loose change. Money becomes valuable when we use it to meet our needs or achieve our goals. And third, I have more time. Time is the most valuable thing we have, and it's limited. When I spend my time pursuing material things that don't bring me lasting happiness, I feel like I'm wasting it. Instead, I'd rather invest my time in things that make me feel good now and will serve me well in the future. Basically, you just press one button and you get your espresso. If we view money solely as a means to an end, we can make decisions about our work and financial management more effectively. Spending time with people who matter most to me, which strengthens my bonds and brings me joy, and doing things that make me feel accomplished, like finishing projects or learning something new, which boosts my confidence and skills. But when we take the time to examine these things closely, we realize they're just objects. And what can I let go of to make space for more meaningful things in my life? Maybe it's certain clothes, gadgets, or even relationships. Whatever it is, letting go can be a good thing. Just like the nomads leaving their trash behind, we can learn to detach ourselves from things that no longer serve us. This practice helps us simplify our lives, appreciate what we have, and focus on what truly matters. For example, when we look at our phones, we notice they're just made of plastic, glass, and metal. They're not inherently valuable. The value we give them comes from how we use them. It's the same with many other things. Now, I'm not saying that having nice things is bad. It's not. In fact, there are things in my life that I'm grateful for that I wouldn't trade for anything. But it's important to choose wisely. Think about whether the thing you want to buy or do will genuinely make your life better, or if it's just a distraction. We spent thousands of dollars on this machine, but after a while, both me and my business partner realized that we actually prefer the old way. We enjoy the ritual of making coffee, grinding the beans, pulling the lever, and even cleaning the machine. The process brings us joy, so we decided to get rid of that fancy machine. Our reasoning was simple. Why have something that's supposed to make life easier but actually makes us less happy? So I started my own little experiment. I'm trying to practice intentional living by getting rid of things that don't bring me joy, that don't help me grow, or that don't contribute to my happiness. They carefully collect all the trash from the day: plastic bottles, paper, scraps of clothing, broken tools, and anything else that was useless to them. And then they leave it all right where they stopped for the day. I remember binge-watching a popular series a couple years ago and reaching out for the next episode. I realized I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It wasn't giving me anything or helping me in any way, so I stopped watching it. To be honest, I felt a bit lost at first, because it was a habit I'd been doing for a long time. But after a while, I rediscovered the joy of reading books again. I also stopped following some accounts on social media that made me feel insecure, or that showed things that didn't make me feel good. I replaced them with accounts that inspire me, make me think, or share positive messages. This helped me shift my focus away from material possessions and towards experiences, personal growth, and emotional well-being.
Ow.
This creates strange piles of trash all over the desert. You might wonder why, but it's because they want to remind themselves of what they don't need. You see, they travel light. They don't carry much stuff. And sometimes the line between useful things and useless things can get blurry. So when they leave their trash behind, it helps them remember what isn't worth carrying. I thought about that nomad trick recently because we live in a time where we're constantly bombarded with choices. One question I found helpful is, does this object or activity make me happier? Another thing I did is stop watching some TV shows that I didn't like. This journey hasn't been easy. I won't pretend it has. Some days I feel like I'm not doing enough. This includes taking care of myself, like going for walks in nature, which never gets old. Sometimes we hold on to material things too tightly because we think they'll make us happy, or we think we need them to prove ourselves. So ask yourself, what do I really need? What brings me genuine happiness? In our consumer society, it's easy to get caught up in the cycle of buying more and more things. Now let's apply this to our relationship with money. Think about a scenario where you're camping in the wilderness and you have everything you need except a lighter. Similarly, let's consider a painter who paints beautiful pictures that touch people's hearts. So money, like the lighter in the painting, derives its value from how we perceive it and use it. Now, if we think of money as a tool or a medium to achieve our goals and dreams, it becomes something to manage rather than something to chase endlessly. For example, instead of thinking, "Oh, I wish I had more money," we can reframe that thought to, "How can I use what I have to create more value?" It's not about becoming indifferent to money. It's about changing our relationship with it. Thanks for watching. Did you enjoy listening to the story? Did you find it interesting? Let me know in the comments below. Whenever we eat, we use forks, knives, spoons, and plates. We don't give it a second thought. These utensils are just there. Pick up this spoon. You know who uses spoons like this one? Here, take a look at these. You'll notice something. All of them are the same. Yes, exactly the same. That is because the king never ate with a different spoon. If you are wondering why, listen closely. The kings and queens of old. Well, of course. They were not ordinary people. Simple patterns of leaves, circles, or symbols of the royal crest. There was no decoration for the sake of beauty. Even the patterns had meanings. For warm stews and lentils, heavy copper bowls lined with silver were used. Made of brass or bronze, it had a long, narrow neck and a curved spout. No one other than the head water servant was allowed to touch it. He had to wear white gloves when pouring water into the king's S or queen S cup. The act of pouring was slow, and the sound of water was meant to be soft and steady, like a gentle breeze. No shelf was overcrowded. The air was always cool there, even in summer. On special occasions like Harvest Day or the day of the first monsoon rain, a special set of golden plates was taken out. These were lighter, smaller, and often decorated with pale green paint around the edges. She preferred smaller portions and disliked heavy bowls. Her favorite dish was one shaped like a flower petal, made from jade. These bowls had no decoration, no silver lining. The idea was to teach them humility. Only when they turned 16 were they allowed to eat from silver plates, and even then, they had to earn it by learning palace manners. Some spoons were not for eating, but for serving. Every evening she would sit down to eat. Round her were all the beautiful golden dishes. Bowls of pickles, lemons, and mint were placed carefully. The queen was sad. Why? Because she missed her mother. She picked up a bowl. It was heavy and cold. She dipped some pickle into it and slowly ate. As she did, a smile touched her lips. Her mother had taught her to do that. She closed her eyes and ate in silence. A long-handled ladle made of brass was used to serve soup. A curved spatula was used to serve flatbreads. No one knew why. It was just how things had always been done. Each server knew which tool to use for which dish. They simply remained silent, polished, and ready. It was always placed neatly in the center, like an island in a quiet sea of silver. How are they different from our utensils? How are they similar? What can we learn from them? A servant stood ready with a soft cloth to wipe any accidental spill. Even a single grain out of place was gently removed. Mistakes were rare, but if they happened, the utensil was quietly removed and replaced without a word. The food served in it was always white-boiled rice, milk sweets, or cucumber slices. But even then, no excitement was allowed. Special dishes were placed just like the others, slowly, evenly, with no added attention. Tell me in the comments below. Also, tell me which utensil did you like the most. The walls were coated with a special mud mixture to keep insects away. And twice a day, a servant would walk through the storage room, ringing a small bell not to alert anyone, but to keep the space spiritually active. The serving cloths were laid out, and the silver bowls placed carefully at the center. Around them were the smaller plates, one for pickles, one for salt, one for lemons, and one for fresh mint leaves. The mint was rarely eaten. It was there for the scent. His favorite was a blackened silver vessel with a dent on one side. The dent had been caused by a small fall years ago when a servant had slipped. Instead of punishing him, the king had kept the bowl as it was, a symbol of patience. Even removing the lid had a quiet ritual lift. Hold for a breath, then place softly beside the bowl. The queen disliked clattering sounds. Whenever he ate from it, he remained unusually quiet. Silence was good, but stillness was dangerous. The copper retained heat, while the silver gave it a noble glow. For cold dishes, fruits, sweet rice, or milk, a ceramic dish with a floral base was chosen. These ceramics were imported, but no one ever spoke of their origin. Their silence matched the mood of every royal meal. A circle meant peace, a vine meant prosperity, and a lotus meant silence. So their lifestyle, their houses, and yes, even their spoons and plates were very different from ours. The king's cup was slightly larger than the queen's, but both had the same design, a line of 7 tiny dots circling the top rim. These trays were made of wood, but lined with velvet cloth so the silver wouldn't scratch. Then they were polished with white ash and wiped with dry banana leaves. The polishing cloths were never reused. After one use, they were burned. Cleanliness, after all, was not just a practice, it was a belief. Each tray was assigned to a specific meal type. Breakfast had a blue cloth, lunch had green, and dinner had maroon. Servants memorized these cloths like soldiers memorized flags. No one knew what the dots meant. Some said they stood for the 7 values of the court. Others believed they were just for balance. This is an exquisite spoon, isn't it? Look at how beautifully it has been carved. Not just this one. In the old royal kitchens, food was not only about ingredients or recipes, it was also about the vessels. Soft cloth would often be wrapped around the fingers of the queen to keep her hands from touching the food directly. The king, however, sometimes used a small, flat silver spoon for broths. It was called the calm ladle because it allowed the liquid to touch the lips without spilling. A meal's dignity depended as much on the plate as on the bread placed on it. The king and queen never ate from common dishes. Every item of their food had a designated utensil, carefully crafted, cleaned, and stored. Let me show you something. This is a picture of the king's bedroom. Look carefully. Can you see that corner over there? That is where the king's spoons and forks were kept. He had many sets, each for a different purpose. Each was marked with a unique sign. Most of the royal plates were made from silver. Some were gilded with gold along the rims. Others had soft designs etched into their surfaces. Forks and spoons were uncommon. Royals preferred to eat with their fingers, but not bare. There were separate vessels for hot and cold items, the water jug called. The pourer was an item of its own class. The cups were always heavy. Lighter cups were considered disrespectful because they might tip or shake. Before the meal, a tray carried all these items to the dining area. Between meals, all utensils were washed not with soap, but with boiled water mixed with herbs and salt. In the storage room behind the royal kitchen, shelves stood in neat rows, each holding only a few vessels. Some utensils were used only once a year. The queen had her own collection of personal bowls and plates. The king, on the other hand, liked heavier bowls. Children of the royal family, when they were young, were trained to eat from plain wooden bowls. Before every meal, the vessels were brought out one by one and arranged in a specific order. Some bowls had lids. These lids had tiny handles, shaped like peacocks or fish. No one touched the lid unless instructed. Once upon a time there was a young queen. There was even a system for which bowl was used on which day. Mondays were 4 round bowls, Tuesdays for oval. Wednesdays had square plates. The food never touched the outer rim of the plate. They did not break, they did not rust. Now let us think about these utensils. Did you like the story? Thank you for watching. Goodbye. I'm going to take you through a normal day in the life of a king. Let me get you up to speed. This king wakes up at 6 a.m., does his morning ritual, eats breakfast at 8, does his job stuff till noon, eats lunch at noon, takes a break to relax, eats dinner at 8, does some nighttime stuff and sleeps at 10. So it's a normal day. Like any other, except it isn't. Because in order to understand what happens in the life of a king, we have to understand the things that he has to keep in mind. He has to maintain the kingdom's prosperity, protect its people, uphold its traditions, and ensure its future. Things like traditions, people, age, health, money, and power. He knows that being a good king requires a strong body and a clear mind, so he pays attention to what he eats and how he exercises. Like his shoes, the king always wears leather shoes, but he switches between boots and loafers, depending on the weather and occasion. For example, he might wear a heavy velvet robe for a formal ceremony, a light cotton tunic for a casual meeting, or a waterproof cloak in the rain. The choice of clothes not only depends on the weather and occasion, but also on the message he wants to convey. He likes to eat a variety of dishes made from fresh ingredients. For example, he might eat grilled chicken with roasted vegetables and a side of brown rice. It's about being able to balance tradition and change, people and principles, age and energy, health and ambition, money and morals. It's about being able to make decisions that benefit not just oneself, but also the kingdom and its people. It's about being able to lead by example, by being fair, just, and compassionate. It's about being able to inspire loyalty, respect, and love from the people. He also likes to drink green tea, which he believes helps him focus and stay healthy. Their stomachs hurt, their heads pound, and they can't stop sweating. Loves his people, and he feels bad that he hurt them. No matter how much you love something, you should respect others who don't. And no matter how much you want to help people, you should not force change on them. You should listen to their needs and respect their feelings. Otherwise, you may end up hurting them. He decides that he will never try to change anything again. He will stick to the bland food and avoid spice. From that day on, the king never adds spice to his food. He sticks to bland food, soft and easy to digest. He realizes that some things are better left unchanged. The king's chef runs around the hall trying to find some milk and water to help the people, but it's no use. The damage is done. The king feels bad. He didn't mean for anyone to get hurt, just wanted to share his love of spice with everyone. The king apologizes to the people and promises to make it up to them. He orders his chef to prepare a feast of bland food, soft and easy to digest. The people are disappointed, but they accept the king's apology. They understand that the king didn't mean to hurt them. They also understand that sometimes change is not a good thing. Being a king is not just about living in a palace. It's about living with purpose and integrity. Subscribing for more videos like this. Now let's get back to the topic. It's about living as a true leader and a true servant of the people. He loves spicy food, but his wife, the queen, doesn't. Every time he tries to add some spice to his meals, he gets indigestion. For years, he has been eating tasteless food, trying to avoid indigestion. But now he wants to change that. He asks for some spices and starts adding them to his meals. At first, his indigestion is worse than before. But he doesn't give up. He keeps adding spices to his meals, and his indigestion slowly gets better. He discovers that he can eat spicy food without getting indigestion. Now, the choice of food not only depends on his personal taste, but also on his health and the availability of ingredients. He announces to his kingdom that he will host a grand feast, inviting everyone in the kingdom, from the richest nobles to the poorest peasants. On the day of the feast, everyone gathers in the kingdom's main hall. The king sits on a golden throne at one end of the hall, and everyone else sits on regular chairs facing him. King announces that he will serve them a feast unlike any other feast, a feast of spice. The people are excited. They have never tasted spicy food before. The king's chef prepares a huge feast with all kinds of spicy dishes. There are curries with hot peppers and chilies, stews with ginger and turmeric, meats with cinnamon and cloves. The people are amazed. They have never tasted anything like this before. The king watches as everyone enjoys the feast. He sees the nobles and peasants alike, sweating, laughing, and crying from the spicy food. The king is happy. He has brought spice to his kingdom. A formal outfit, for example, can convey a sense of solemnity and importance, while a casual outfit can convey a sense of friendliness and informality. They make him feel comfortable, confident, and in control. They also make him feel human. Despite being a king, he's still a person with needs, desires, and preferences. By paying attention to these small things, the king is able to maintain his dignity, power, and humanity at the same time. For example, he might wear boots in the winter or when he's going on a long journey, and loafers in the summer or when he's meeting important guests. The choice of shoes not only depends on the weather and occasion, but also on the message he wants to convey. Boots, for example, can convey a sense of authority and power, while loafers can convey a sense of comfort and relaxation. We're going to go through each of these things and show you how they impact the king's everyday life. We'll start with traditions. Now, our king likes to maintain traditions. In the summer, he prefers a thin cotton blanket, while in the winter, he likes to use a thick wool blanket. He also likes to have fresh flowers on his bed every morning. It's a small luxury that adds a touch of elegance and freshness to his bedroom. For example, he's a very spiritual person, so he practices meditation and yoga every day. He also makes sure to visit his favorite temple once a week. Then there are smaller traditions like making sure he drinks lemon juice every morning or eating dinner with his family. People. Now our king interacts with a lot of people. Some of them are his ministers, generals, advisors, and friends. He meets them every day to talk about various aspects of the kingdom, from politics to warfare to news and gossip. He also has to meet new people every day. Ambassadors from foreign kingdoms, travelers from far-off lands, merchants from different regions. Some of them have news to share, others have goods to sell, and still others have requests to make. Age. Our king is middle-aged. Like any man in his position, he has certain responsibilities and expectations placed upon him. Health. Now the king is very much aware of his health, money, and power. Now the king's wealth is a crucial part of his domain. He must keep track of the kingdom's income and expenses, manage its resources, and make sure it remains prosperous. His power is also something he has to be mindful of. He needs to balance the interests of different groups within the kingdom and make sure everyone feels they're being treated fairly. These are the big things that our king keeps in mind. But what about the small things? What about the tiny details that make a big difference? Then there's the king's clothes. He has a huge wardrobe filled with different outfits for different occasions. What about his bed? The king likes to sleep on a comfortable mattress, and he uses different blankets depending on the weather. And finally, let's talk about the king's food. Now, why do you think all of these small things matter? They matter because they make the king feel good. See, being a king is not just about having power and wealth. It's also about having the wisdom and grace to use it well. Being a king is a great responsibility, but it's also a great opportunity to serve and to leave a legacy. You know what else matters? Our king is tired of eating bland food. The king is happy with this discovery, but he doesn't want to keep it a secret. He wants to share it with the world. But then something strange happens. As the night goes on, the people start to feel sick. They've never eaten so much spice before. The next day, the king wakes up feeling sad. So remember, no matter how powerful you are still human.